Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And it's episode 101 of D to D, Ron.
That's amazing. This would be the Herb Alpert episode, wouldn't it?
I guess so.
It was Route 101.
Yeah, as we turn the corner, we start our second of 100 episodes. Did I say that right?
Second century of shows.
Second century of shows that we start here in episode 101. Ways to get a hold of us. digitaltodice.com is our website. 978-751-DICE is the dice line. Leave us a text. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email, and facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. What do you say? We're up over 800 in the group now?
We just passed 800. In fact, I think we've hit the Vermont 802 yesterday, as a matter.
Oh, wow. So, yeah. Over there on Facebook there. Check out the Digital to Dice group on Facebook as we chat things about the show and all things sports games related. Here in episode 101, another fantastic guest to kick things off. Al Wilson of Fast Drive Football. A lot of you guys are playing Fast Drive Football. Well, we're going to have Al Wilson on. He's going to talk about that and so many other things here on episode 101. And that is coming up next. Joining us on the Dice Line for our 101st episode here on Digital to Dice. Something that you've probably seen on YouTube, and many of you are playing his brand new football game, Fast Drive Football. Joining us is Al Wilson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave. Hope you guys are doing well.
We're hot. We're very hot here today. I don't know about you. We're having a heat wave up here.
Yeah, down here in North Carolina, it's hot and humid, but nothing like it was when I was living in Phoenix, so I'm okay.
It's we're just not built for it here in the Northeast, and so it's 79 where I am right now inside.
Yeah, it's tough. The last few shows, Ron's recorded in his underwear. It's been that hot.
Dave's used to looking at the Paisley by now, so
yeah. The SpongeBob shorts. I love those.
Actually, if I got the socks, no, I don't have the socks today. But yeah.
Hey, so anyway, Al, before we get going here, there's one question that we ask all of our guests before we do the show, and that question is, what sporting event would you attend if you could go back and attend any sporting event in history? What would the one you'd like to go back and be there for?
It is one you could have actually attended if that was.
So it would be I want to be there for the home run. I want to be there for Maz's home run. I went to Pitt. I went to a lot of my classes at the quad at Pitt on where Forbes Field stood. So I love the history of that field, and I would love to be there for that game against the Yankees and see that home run, see the crowd going nuts. Maybe even watching it from the top of the cathedral, learning. Maybe not even in the stadium, because that's another iconic photograph of people watching that World Series. I don't know which game it was, but just some shots of people watching the World Series from that vantage point. But yeah, put me in Forbes Field. For the 60 series against the Yankees when they clinched it. I would love that.
Well, that's pretty cool.
That's a good choice.
I thought you were going to say you wanted to be there when Mighty Casey struck out.
No.
Was that a real thing? That wasn't a real thing, was it?
No.
No? Oh.
No, it's a poem.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's too. Okay.
Yeah.
I always wondered about that because no one said they want to be there for Casey when he struck out. Okay.
There's no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey.
That's right. It was Mudville. It was Mudville, right? Oh, okay. Anyway, all right. So turning to things out, what got you started playing games? What were some of the first games that you remember playing?
So. I think so. I have to set this up. We were a military family, so we went to what was called the PX often, which was a general store that was on the local naval base. And at the PX, they had some of the Status Pro games. Sports Illustrated, it was probably the Sports Illustrated versions there in that early to mid 70s, and then into late 70s. And I remember looking at the boxes, being really interested in them, but seeing that they were all 2-player. And I grew up pretty much as an only child, didn't have a lot of friends. So instead, the games that I ended up playing were what I thought would be just things I could play by myself more easily. So C-Action football, Talking Monday Night Football were probably the first sports board games I remember, and then anything else that I could make into a single player game were big, like just, doing races with my Matchbox cars, not Hot Wheels, but Matchbox cars, doing a loop off my windowsill and then doing final standings for all the different cars and keeping track of win loss for all my different Matchbox cars. Doing I had that guy that would kick the football through the uprights.
Yes.
That little action game. I would make contests with that. I played hundreds and hundreds of imaginary basketball games with my Nerf hoop in my room, playing both sides. And I can't forget electric football, playing, setting up the formations and turning on the switch and playing games of electric football. So, but not many more memories than that as far as gaming, because at my age, we hit Pong and Atari right when I was turning around 10, 11, 12. So most of my gaming as a kid was video games, especially as not a lot of friends around to play different games. So really got into video games at an early age. And again, it was remember Christmas morning, my parents tricking me, saying, "Hey, there's some weird fuzzy signal coming through on the TV," and it was Pong playing in the background. They just had it tuned to the wrong channel, so I had to flip over to the right channel, and then they revealed the hidden Pong display. But from then, I think I've had every single video game console from then on. And I know that you've talked about some old games in your channel. I'm still number one. Tecmo has got to be Tecmo football, Tecmo Super Bowl, and NHL 92, 93, that era are still my top games of all time. So yeah, it's kind of a broad brush stroke there. I did get into the sports games. My friends in the neighborhood were playing APBA. I remember going over a friend's house probably when I was 14 and getting introduced to APBA, and they didn't even have a chart. So this is funny because I never knew APBA had a chart book. I really didn't, because they would play it with just the cards. And they would roll the dice, and I guess they had the results memorized.
Oh, it's easy to memorize. So,
yeah. Right, and they would never look it up. And so I always thought APBA was just, you just have to know what the numbers mean. So that didn't appeal to me. So I think I bought Status Pro and Strat, and I alternated between the two. I think I preferred Status Pro, but I remember watching so I would have been probably not 14. I would have been 12, because I was watching the 1980 World Series with the Phillies while playing Strat on the floor in the living room. So. So APBA I was exposed to, but that's what led me, but just seeing it led me to look for something similar in a store. And you couldn't find APBA in a store back then, in a toy store at the PX or anything. So I think that's why I bought Strat in the big flat box, and eventually Status Pro as well.
What got you into football gaming then?
So, I've always enjoyed football as a number, baseball and football always alternate. And like I said, I played the death out of the C-Action football with the little film strips, as well as the Talking Monday Night Football.
That's that had the records, right? That had the records?
Exactly, the little records.
That was great.
So I never played any card and dice football games until I was much older. And I really enjoyed in both of those games, it was narrative. It was either listening to the play-by-play or watching the action unfold, scene by scene with the results printed at the bottom of the display on the projector. So that was my introduction to what a football game, what a board game football game would be. It wasn't about dice and charts. It was more about the colors, the sound, the sights, the narrative.
Mm-hmm. The old video games, especially like the Intellivision, which I really liked, it was tough to play the sports games because they were two-player games. And like you said, I got a brother, and he did not want to play sports games. So I found myself like calling the play and trying to play both controllers, and that was tough to play there by yourself, So I didn't play a lot of sports games, even though I wanted to. And it wasn't until I think the Sega Genesis and Nintendo came along that you could play single player.
Yeah, I think I didn't do Intellivision, but I did ColecoVision. I want to say that ColecoVision, I know you could do the Rocky boxing game was amazing with the special grip controller, and they may have had a football game or a baseball game that you're able to play single player, but you're right. It wasn't until Nintendo and Genesis came along that we were able to do that. But then it was, from then on, it was, I had no need for board games once we had things like on the Nintendo baseball or I wanted to say Baseball Simulator 1000, but there's the better one.
RBI, but that's not really a simulator.
No, gosh, it was all. We were just talking about this at the con, and my buddies are gonna slap me for not remembering. But yeah, it was Nintendo that sort of, brought that single player experience in, especially when they started adding the battery backups where you could save your season stats. That was just brilliant.
So then you started to get into the some of the cards and dice. I saw you did some like military kind of games too. I've seen some videos on your channel for Fortress. Was it Fortress, or Winged Fortress, or Air Fortress, or something like that? Or
B-17 Queen of the Skies. So there was a period about 10 years ago where I spun up the YouTube channel, Hands-On Games. It's still out there, and the focus was going to be mostly on sports games. But since I was also, the whole solitaire gaming, solo gaming was kind of blowing up. Started about maybe 8 years ago, and besides sports games being natural for that, in terms of being able to play both sides, and we're talking about games that weren't designed to be solitaire but naturally lent themselves to do so. So baseball, easily one of the more easy ones to convert to being solitaire instead of head-to-head. But there was a whole line of historical war games by Victory Point Games that was built for someone like me who didn't have an opponent. It had an automated opponent, and tables that you'd roll against to get the results. And so it felt like a natural extension to get more viewership on the channel to bring those in. But since then, people, I still get comments on some of those videos. Unfortunately, I really did lose an interest in the whole wargaming scene a number of years ago. And when we moved from Oceanside, California over to Phoenix 5 years ago now, pretty much sold all those games. So I'm down to all my sports games and maybe a couple favorite other type of solo games. But I was doing that for a little bit, but it's not something I'm really invested in any longer.
So what got you into making some of the sports videos? I know you've done quite a few, and a lot that I watched that helped me learn some games here. So what was the driving force behind, I'm playing this game, I like it, I want to show it off and help other people?
Well, there was a couple motivations. When I started the channel, I think I was in a funk with regards to my career, and thinking, you know what, this is my chance maybe to catch the eye of a game developer, a game publisher, and show that I've got, that kind of that right skill set that might lend itself to being part of a game company. So it was a combination of wanting to, market myself as maybe someone who could get a job at a game company, as well as help other people learning the same games I were learning, and as practice. I wanted to get practice, as I was furthering my career, wanted to get practice speaking to people and being able to, communicate well. So there's a number of different factors that went into it. And also just taking advantage of the technology I had. I had the computer, had the camera. I figured, why not give it a shot? It's more of those, let's just see if I can do it. And I'll admit, when I got to a certain point, hit that 1,000 viewer mark, sort of lost a little bit of the mojo there, and a little bit of that drive to continue doing it, and was realizing that I was spending more time editing videos and recording and editing than actually playing the games I wanted to play. So kind of dropped off from making the videos, and now I only jump on to do a live recording here and there, and then just upload that to the channel.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I've gone too, is that I did a lot of editing back in the day too, and boy, I tell you, to do a half-hour video, you're talking, an hour and a half, 2 hours to do that half-hour video, to edit it all down. Yeah. And it, again, post-editing makes everything look nice. But, boy, there's a lot of times, like, let me just bang this out, and be done with it. And I don't want to have to edit. And if I make a mistake, oh, well, I'll mention it or whatever. We all do. But I found myself, too, that I would do the video, and I'd make a mistake, and I'd start over, and I'd do 8 takes of it, and I'd be 3 hours and I wouldn't get any good takes. And finally I said, man, I'm just not going to get it done. I just need to do it live and be done with it, and just let your chips fall where they may. And I think that's half the fun about doing some of these live videos, is that you're playing the game, and sometimes when you are playing the game, you make mistakes or you lose your place sometimes. You know, the wife calls you on the phone and like, oh my gosh, did I pitch to this guy yet? You know, is it third down or fourth down? You know, where am I in the game? And that's half the fun, is you got to get lost in it sometimes in the whole bit. So yeah, so I do hear you on that. Talk a little bit about your relationship with Play.com. How did it all take place in the whole bit?
Yeah, 2012. I was, I do you mind if I go back and talk about my relationship with Pete Ventura first, because that's what led into it.
Sure.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah. So when I, there was a period in the late 2000s or in the 2000s, I was heavy into PC sports gaming, and I was hosting a mod site for Out of the Park Baseball. I'd done some. I conversed quite a bit with Marcus, who is the developer. I was part of his testing team from the very first version of Out of the Park Baseball, and very early on, I started creating mods for that game. And we're talking about all the logos and whatnot. And so I started getting burnt out on Out of the Park, started looking for a card and dice game, and that led me to Replay. And while I was investing in the Replay card and dice game, struck up a relationship with Pete Ventura, who told me that they were working on a PC adaptation. And then I, got in touch, the three of us, me, Pete, and Richard Hanna. Obviously it was mostly Pete and Richard coded that game, but they leveraged my ability to do all of the graphics that I was already doing for Out of the Park, brought that skill over to Replay for all the fields and the logos, and they built that right into the game. And then Richard had me do some voice recordings for the umpire and the play-by-play. And so those voices are mine. And then, of course, honestly, I can't remember. Did the PC version of Second and 10 come before the PC version of PC Replay? Now I'm losing track.
I believe it did. I think for close to 20 years.
Right. So then around the same time, I was doing some of the voice work for Second and 10, for the referee calls, as well as some of the graphics, like all the referee graphics and the helmets and the team logos. That was all mine as well. So I was doing all that work and having a blast supporting them. Again, I'll be honest, with the hopes that maybe that would lead to be part of a game publishing company somehow, that I could put this on my resume. Well, long story short, never happened, but it was still fun to do that. Somewhere in that time between the 2000s, mid 2000s and early 2010s, I got tired of playing the games because it turned into a click fest for me. You hear a lot of people talk about this with stat-based games. You're just clicking a mouse. Some people continue on with it. It just started falling flat. And I reached out to Marcus and told him, I was going to stop supporting the Padres Fan Mods website. And he found someone else to take over all those mods. I talked to Richard, told him I was pretty much done doing all that work. And I think it still pretty much continues on today. They're still leveraging all the work we did. And I started going back to cards and dice. And for some reason, I had an interest in NASCAR at the time, and got myself a copy, I want to say right around 2011, 2012, of Red, White, and Blue Racing. I didn't really have much of a relationship with Keith Avalone at the time or Play, but it was Pete who kind of, helped connect me, because I had seen at the time, that he had second season football, was under his publishing realm for a while. And it was shortly before my relationship that Keith took it back over. And I started looking into that, got into the racing game. And I really didn't, it was about 2012 when Keith and I were emailing about stuff. Keith understood what my interests were, understood I was a big baseball fan, and said, do you want to take a look at the new baseball game I'm working on? And I said, yeah, that'd be great. And so when you ask, how did the relationship start? It was that moment I opened up the envelope and I saw the qualities, something that was brand new to me. And I think still, obviously stuck with me for the last 10 years was that concept. And so something in that struck me so hard that I had to basically I pressed the leverage that Keith gave me to work with him, and I went in full bore and pretty much dropped interest in all other games because I was so enamored with this concept, and that led to a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, eventually small little not conventions but events in different towns that I would travel to, and so the relationship kind of grew from there. The wives getting together and becoming nice. Friends, and so I think over the past 10 years we became really good friends. I do, as I've said before, he's pretty much my best friend now, for all the time we spent together, not just focused on games, but all the other stuff as well. So that's kind of how it all started.
Okay. Yeah, the play games, we talk about them all the time. They're so different, and you really got to kind of go into that with an open mind, because the first couple I played, it's like, wow, these are way different than anything I've done. But it seems like the more that you give them a chance and you accept that they do things differently, you can actually really enjoy them. But if you go in thinking that, boy, this is not like anything I played, I don't like it, you got to kind of, like I said, this is a different language. I think Ron said it's a different language, actually. You're learning a whole new language of playing games, whereas you have the, like I said, the characteristics there, or whatever you want to call them, of the teams, of the players, rather than numbers or rather than symbols. You're looking at stars and circles and qualities, and it's a very different way of playing a game. And it took me a little bit of time to warm up to that as well.
Yeah, I think I see my role in the community since I run the Facebook community page, and I have an opportunity now to speak about my game, which borrows a lot of those ideas, and basically be an advocate for the idea of qualities being a legitimate way to run a game or sim engine. It really works. I think that the baseball game proves it, the golf game proves it. I think my football game proves it, I think it didn't need Fast Drive Football to come along to be legitimate, but it sort of adds to that. And I'm not even saying that you do see some people that aren't comfortable with the system that would prefer to play what they're used to, and sometimes aren't really sure can a game like this really produce the results I want and still be fun. But I think what we see, and like what I see now, is there is an acceptance of it, that it is legitimate, that it really does work. And if you're the type of person who is less into the sabermetrics and the numbers and more into a game that gives you the experience of watching a couple hours of TV on a Sunday, you're going to enjoy it. But if you want to be able to dissect and read a card and have it be transparent in terms of what the results are going to be, it's definitely not a game engine or a set of games. It's for everybody. There's a certain amount of imagination that I think it requires, and appreciation for a color narrative versus a strict statistical based input and output game, which is what I enjoy. When we started working on the golf game, I was lucky enough to help them with that. I said from day one, I want the golf game to feel like you're watching, like you just turned on the TV. It's 1 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon, and the poor golfers are already on the 9th hole. You're about to watch Tiger Woods tee off on the first hole, and you're going to spend the next 4 hours in TV time, watching the tournament play out. And that's what we wanted the golf game to feel like. It's like you're watching it on TV. You're jumping from hole to hole. The TV camera doesn't follow every shot. So we wanted it to sort of feel like that. And that's what a quality system can give you versus a different system where you're going to need to roll for every single shot.
Yeah, no, that golf game, I got that last year, and I watched a lot of videos on that golf game to help me learn how to play it. And I still was hesitant when I bought it. And I remember when I got it, and and read the directions, and then I was like, okay, and I'm remembering all the videos, and I'm reading the directions, so it made some sense. And after about an hour into it, I just remember saying, wow, all these videos I just watched about History Maker Golf, they don't do the game any justice at all. And it's through no fault of any of the creators that have done these videos, because I did a couple for it too. Until you play this game, it just, like I say, I watched 10, 15 videos, and when I sat down and rolled the dice and started setting it up, I was still blown away. I was blown away at and you said it perfectly. It feels like a Sunday afternoon of golf where you roll for the first 3 days, you get them out of the way, and you put all the scrubs away, get their final scores, and then you start with the big guys, and it staggers. You roll at the bottom guys, and then again, eventually, Tiger's teeing off at 1 while the other guys are off over here at 4 or 5. And the only part that's confusing is that you keep going backwards in holes, because it's like the guys finish 4, now you're going to go back to 1. So you're constantly flipping the holes around, which takes a little to get used to. But when you're done and you're coming down here and you're saying, man, I got 3 holes to go, and this guy just shanked his shot into the crowd and hit someone in the knee, and now he's cold because he's upset that he hit somebody, he hurt somebody, and he falls apart at the end. And someone who was hanging around gets a couple of birdies. Now he's in the lead here at 17, and it sets up an unbelievable 18. It does. When you're done, and we had talked back and forth on email, and says, boy, it's a long game. It's like a 4 or 5 hour experience for me. But it is unbelievable 4 or 5 hours of playing that game. And when you're done, you sit, you're sweating. You feel like you just played in the tournament. But again, it seems that you watched it on TV, and I don't know how they did it. I get done, it's like, I am watching this on TV. I'm watching the players fall apart. I'm watching the players who are hanging around. I'm watching, like, the Shark, Norman falling apart down 13, 14, and 15. And it's amazing how it's done, and they do it and they pull it off. And if you haven't tried History Maker Golf, I highly recommend it, because it is. And no matter how many videos you watch, it's not going to do any justice, because this game is just that good that a video can't capture the excitement of it. So, but yeah, so I enjoy that very much. I got the baseball game, but I haven't played it yet. I haven't played much in a couple of weeks now, but
yeah, you'll enjoy it. I think the key points that I can tell you about the baseball game is that unlike other games, and you know what, I'm not an expert on Strat, Napa, and Status Pro, but I do know that they do attempt to have the results come out to close to what happened in real life. And when it comes down to it, the qualities in History Maker Baseball will evoke, they'll evoke images in your mind, but they represent reasonable, believable ranges of performance. So, a batter, and this is a batter with no quality representing his batting average. At the end of the season, he's going to hit between 255 and 265, in that range. Someone who's a hero will be up around 290, 300. It'll be believable. Things may happen during the season to affect their mood or the team chemistry that might tweak those numbers left or right. But what's cool is that you don't know going in exactly how the season's going to end, but everything at the end will end up being believable, but if not precise. And that's the important part of History Maker Baseball. It takes a greenfield look at the season. What are these players capable of doing? And then you let the season play out. It doesn't look back and say, here's what they did, and the game engine will make sure that happens. The game engine says, okay, this is what that player did. Okay, we're going to give them these qualities that represent that kind of possible outcome. But the outcome you get may be a little bit different. And that's the fun part. That's the cool part. And then second, what you've already seen in Fast Drive Football, because I've heard you say it, is the game book will tell you, give you a narrative about why something just happened. You will see that, is he a hero? If the answer is yes, he gets a single. If no, it's a fly out. You'll kind of see that progression from left to right, going pitcher, batter, and fielder. Does the pitcher do something to control the at bat? No. Okay. Does the batter have a certain quality? Nope. Then we're going to go to the field and see what happens there, or some other result. There's a nice if then else flow that lets you see more than just the at bat, but the impact that other players might be having on it, all in one easy kind of flow from left to right.
Sticking with the play.com, you just went to the play.con out there in Colorado, I believe it was, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about those and what happens at those.
For those of us that have been there every year, it's something we all look forward to. And this year was probably the best event we had because we hadn't had one in 2 years. What goes on is that Keith and Sam put, it feels like 100 hours of work into making sure everybody has a good time first and foremost. They put together an agenda of events. They will kick it off with a picnic the day before where we can all get together and just commiserate and have fun. And, Ethan Muslin, who's one of our community members, actually did a live at the park, a live Fury football game with the adults and the kids. So that was just an amazing way to start. So before I go further, these events are about building the community and strengthening the community, which is a lot of what makes play games so special. So, and typically the first, it's a 2-day event. So we went Friday and Saturday, and this varies from year to year, but we'll have different tournaments. My favorite is the first day we do a golf tournament, which is you've got, 30 plus people all playing, picking one of 6 possible golfers. We all play the same course, and we have a first round. And then after the first round, we resort everybody into the leading table and then on down, and we stagger the starts so that, the people with the poorest scores are starting first, and they finish. And then as they finish, they gather around the leader tables to see how that's going. And then so we crowned a champion of the golf tournament. Then we had a baseball tournament in there. We had a basketball tournament on the second day using his new basketball game, the express version of the basketball game. Another cool part of these conventions, that basketball game won't be out for another 8 or 9 months, but we got to play it. Still in development, but we got to play it, and it was a lot of fun. We did a fun Jeopardy game show that somehow I won, even though I didn't get all the answers that I should have, because you'd be surprised when you're on camera on like a little stage playing Jeopardy. It's easy to forget to say what is or who is. Mm-hmm. So I want all my friends to realize that you weren't up there, you don't know. But anyway, I did end up winning, so that was fun. And then of course there's plenty of time for free play, which means we'll go out into the lobby and we'll just play some games amongst ourselves. Mike Fitzgerald was there, and he's been there for the past couple of years. So Mike Fitzgerald of baseball highlights fame and football highlights fame, plus his publishing career of games goes pretty far back. He was there showing a new basketball game that he's working on. Gary Brown has been there in the past, Legends of Boxing, Grid Zone, Gary Brown. Mm-hmm. He's been there showing his games. He's a big part of the play community. So it's just a blast. And then of course there's, going out to lunch and dinner with everybody and maybe having a few beers and then being told you're playing Jeopardy. It's a nerd gamer party of like 2.5 days that, a lot of us won't soon forget, because again, this last one was really special. Right. It's just, if there's anybody listening to the podcast, I think you've already seen, a lot of pictures and stories from these, but if you can make it, I highly recommend it. And every year we have at least one person who at the end of the show says, you know what, I was hesitant because this is kind of like, we're all kind of introverted, and this is sort of like a solitary hobby that we have. So I was really hesitant and almost a little bit scared to go hang out with a group of people that already have a relationship and I'm an outsider. But after the event, they always say I had a great time. The group is welcoming, and I was so glad that I went. So yeah, it's just a great time.
You created a couple football games. What possessed you to want to create a drive-by-drive game? I mean, what was the thinking behind that?
Back before, so I love second season, but I can't get through a season. It's too deep
long.
Of a game for me. It takes too long. It's fun to play a one-off game here and there. And I had been working on, like, how can we take second season? I was talking to Keith, how can we take second season and speed it up? And I had a couple ideas, and he had some ideas, and that's when he developed Second Season Express. And I pretty much was like, oh, okay, good. I've got what I want now, and I'm good to go. And I was for a couple years, but as I said in previous conversations, I had those files still sitting on my laptop. I thought, what the heck? Let me try to finish this because I don't like leaving something half finished. So I worked on it for a couple more years, and long story short, I finally figured out how to make it work. But it was only going to work with the History Maker engine, so it wasn't that I needed a drive-by-drive game. It was a combination of wanting to finish a quick play game that I liked, and also being heavily influenced by Phil Revere's and Jeff Downey's game-winning drive. Okay. To maybe a small extent momentum football, but really more or less game-winning drive. I love, and actually, you know what? There's a little bit of Tecmo in there too, because when I went over to my neighbor's house a few weeks ago, we played some Tecmo in his backyard, and I remembered how much fun it is to finish a game in 15 minutes. Like, oh my gosh, it's like, this was so great. We just played a whole football game, had a blast, have some stories, and it took 15 minutes to play. And I was like, even Second Season Express could take 20 to 30 minutes. So I wanted something even quicker. And that's when I took my older idea that was playing more like a 20 to 30 minute game, thought about game-winning drive, and said, okay, I think I have something unique, because it's not going to use Keith's Second Season property in terms of his teams. It's brand new names, brand new qualities. So that was kind of the genesis. It sort of fell together naturally over time. It wasn't like I was crazed and I had to create a drive-by-drive game.
I think it's difficult to try to make a game a play-by-play football game, because it is going to take you a long time. And I have a couple, and Ron has a couple, and you sit down and you're in for a long haul if you're going to play a play-by-play type of game. Yeah,
especially in a pure card and dice form. The computer can do the bookkeeping for you.
Yeah,
but as far as sitting down at the table and doing that,
yeah, So again, I have a few of those, and boy, you don't play a full season. You play a game every now and then, and you enjoy it, and that's fun. But boy, it's an hour and a half minimum, sometimes 2.5 hours or so to play that. The Express games, that looks interesting too. Like I say, a half hour to play a game, that's a little bit better. But then your game come along, and again, it's drive-by-drive. It's 15 minutes. It's really fun. And I'm a big fan of game-winning drive. I've talked a lot about that on the show. I play that a lot. And this is kind of like game-winning drive, but it's got some more meat on the bone to it. And it's like I say, it's in the play style of gameplay there. And it kind of found a nice little niche, especially with the community here, because this game's really kind of caught fire. A lot of people enjoying it, a lot of people playing it, a lot of people bugging you for more seasons, which is a good thing. But I can see how you might be overwhelmed with all that there. But and I know you talked about about how's this going to affect the play games. Me personally, after playing your game, now I want to go get Second Season and Second Season Express. I want to be able to play the drive-by-drive game for 15 minutes. I want to be able to play the half-hour game, and maybe for a big game, I want to play the full experience. So I think, for me, this is almost a gateway for me to go play that football game there, because I don't have the football game yet. I have the hockey, the racing, the golf, and the baseball now, but I don't have the football game yet. And one of the reasons why is it's a different system here and it's a longer game. But now I think that will really help the second season sales for guys like me who are kind of on the fence about it now, because now I feel if I can play your game, I should be able to handle the Express. And once they get the Express, maybe I should handle the full game. Maybe it's baby steps. It's the hot porridge, the cold porridge, and the perfect porridge. Something like that. But you have those three options of quick, medium, and now long game playing in a play style football game. So that's why I really like the game there too, is because it plays quick, but it's in that style, so you feel like it's all kind of one happy little family there.
There's a couple interesting points to be made out of what you just said, Dave. First is, fortunately, Keith has said no, it hasn't impacted his sales at all to date, so that's good. And second, I don't think Cooper Gilbert, who's part of my gaming group, he's actually already created a draft of a sheet that will allow you to switch between any game. Oh, it's kind of cool. like you could go in any direction. You could start with the full play, and then you could go either to express or to fast drive, or you could start with fast drive football midway through the fourth. Oh, I want to jump right into the full play.
Ooh.
It has like the tables to roll on to get the exact field position and all that. So and he hasn't put it out there yet, but I saw it at the con, and it's looking pretty good in the form it's already in. And I think that's something that the community will be seeing pretty soon. But that would be absolutely, that is something that we want to support, is the fact that you should be able to get through a full project now, using any combination of these games. I think that's a great idea.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah. Now you also did a couple of other football games. Was it 5 Dice football you did?
Yeah, there's I think there's like one's a dynasty game and one's a single game, but I think it's the 5 Dice football is the one where you control a team for a whole season.
Yeah,
now I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, and it's almost like a Yahtzee style where you roll the dice,
yes.
and then you can elect to pick up a dice and roll them again, but you only can do that so many times.
Yeah, it was the genesis of that was Board Game Geek was having a contest it was a roll and write contest, solitaire roll and write, and again I just put a Yahtzee. I gave Yahtzee a football theme, and that was pretty much it. Where the hands you were rolling determined the points you were going to score. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun because you try to get your team to the playoffs and just try to win the game. It was a neat little fun little game, and I've played that a little bit. That was kind of fun there. Yeah. So you made football games. Have you made any other games?
No, not that. I'm scratching my head here trying to think. No, that was pretty much it. So no, I've been fortunate to pitch in a couple ideas to Keith on the baseball and golf games, but that's pretty much it. It's just besides some of my ideas being in those 2 games. No, I haven't made any other ones besides Fast Drive.
Do you have any guilty pleasure games that you play? A game that you play that you enjoy that maybe you don't tell anybody about for one reason or another? We all have these games that we love, and we're just like, I don't want anybody to know I'm playing this one.
Did you discover your Bee Gees paper doll collection again there, Dave?
No, it's interesting. No, I don't think there's any. I don't have anything like that. Certainly not in board games. I mean, probably the worst. Every now and then, I'll fire up Grand Theft Auto on my Xbox to get some aggression out, maybe. But other than that, no, not really. Not that I can think of.
Did you ever? I played Grand Theft Auto 4, and did you ever get in the fire truck and just go down the street and hose people down?
No.
That was fun. That was fun. You could steal the fire truck, and when you went down the street, you could take the hose in the back of the hook and ladder and just spray people with water when you were going down the street. And it was just stupid fun you could do in that game. It was a fun time there. Let's see. Ron, anything else on here? Do you guys talk about 2nd and 10?
Yeah, we did about the mods of that. Did you actually create all those, or just kind of collate those together?
No, I created all those. That was a lot of Photoshop work. Yeah.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And of course, you can also use them in action PC games too, because all you got to do is just change the unzip directory to whatever that is, and so that's a lot of work, and that work will live on forever.
Yeah.
It's a tremendous amount.
It's very enjoyable. So what does the future hold for you and your channel now, as far as games, playing games, making games, and videos?
So, because I've been somewhat humbled by the reaction that the game got. By the way, I got an email from Phil Revere just last week congratulating me on, basically, he didn't say it in so many words. He didn't say, you one-upped game-winning drive, but what he said was, you've added to the genre of what a drive-by-drive game could be. He was most impressed with the timing mechanism, the fact that we weren't locked into a certain number of drives per game. And
I like that, yeah, because you said there's a little bit of momentum football, because momentum football, you roll a time for the drive, whereas game-winning drive, again, you're locked into, was it 5 drives, a half, or something like that for each team, and that's it.
Yeah.
And as much as I like that game, I do like the momentum football part about it, where and I think I combined the two at one time, where I would roll on the momentum chart in game-winning drive to, okay, this is how long the drive is, and so I might squeak out a drive or might lose a drive, so I do like the fact that you have that special timing.
Yeah, and he brought up the qualities aspect of it, and then at the convention, Mike Fitzgerald, decorated game designer and publisher, also gave me kudos. So I'm absolutely motivated to do something more with the game, and so what the future holds for the game, while I'm cranking out the seasons, also putting the skeleton in place for a career/franchise mode. What I want to do is I want to give gamers the ability to do one of two things. The easy part is following, and I'll be standing on the shoulders of giants again here, like what Gary Brown did with Legends of Boxing, and the ability to roll up your own boxer and take your boxer through a career. I want to put out a module for Fast Drive Football where you can roll up your own team, roll up your own league, fictional, whatever, and have it progress year after year. Or you take any team from NFL history once I have all the seasons out and take that team from that point forward, playing against all the other teams that are already out there. But I want to do it in a way that leverages what I've gotten kudos for, which is the quality system and the narrative. So it won't be simply rolling on a static table to see if you gained a quality or lost a quality. It'll actually be built around the narrative, and maybe introduce some new qualities. Been kicking around with my testing crew. Maybe some of the qualities might be, and it won't be many, but something about ownership and management stability, the strength, how good your coaching staff is. That would, both of those things might factor into how well your draft picks do. Do you have star power on your team that can attract talent or be the difference maker in a season? Things like that, where we'll add a couple more qualities to the teams that won't impact game by game play, but it will impact what happens in the off season. So I want to build another, an attack on module. So if people just want to replay seasons, done. That's going to be, the engine's not going to change. The seasons, the cards won't have to change, but we'll add a way for you to either create a fictional universe or envision yourself as a GM or owner of a team. Again, pretty much focusing on, you're going to be watching the story unfold. It gets a little tricky to have too much user agency in that kind of a mode. So there might be a little bit that we put in there, but more or less it'll be a similar as to the core game itself, where there's very little user agency, very little need for the user to intervene and make decisions. It'll be more about just watching your universe change over time and follow it. Because for me, again, it gets down to what do I want out of a game? I love the NFL. I love watching games on TV. I love Red Zone. I'm invested in all the teams because you're going to see something different every week. I kind of want to make that an organic thing that you can build for yourself in your tabletop.
That's great that you say that, because I downloaded your the fictional league that you did there. That was, I think you borrowed that from the Play Fictional
Football America.
Football America. Okay, yeah, I couldn't. Okay. And so I set that up, and I created my own teams, and I moved franchises around, and I set up my team, my league with that. And I was like, well, once I get through the season, it would be nice if the bottom teams got a draft pick that would bump up a quality or maybe remove a bad quality, and maybe the top team, maybe lost their star quarterback to Tampa Bay or something like that, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly.
But you know what I'm saying? So when I get done playing the season here, I have all these teams, but they all have the same property. So it'd be fun to play another season going forward and have some of those properties change to give. So the bottom teams are not always bottom teams, and the top teams aren't always top teams. So something like that would be really fun. I think mostly for fictional, because it's a whole separate thing. Although I do see what you're saying about taking the $76 and hey, let's see if we can build them up and see how we go from there. But I do like the fact that you're looking at some kind of a career mode.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I mean, and by the way, Dave, we got to get you used to saying the word qualities. They're qualities.
I never know what to call them.
They're qualities. But no, I don't plan on doing anything more with the YouTube channel for now. I think all my free time will just be going to enjoying the game, testing the game, and creating that new franchise or career mode module, whatever we want to call it right now. So that'll probably keep me busy for a year or two.
Well, good stuff. All righty.
Yeah.
Any final words, Ron?
How long from the decision for you to want to make this game, a drive-by-drive game, from concept to the finished product? How long did that take? And it was what kind of took you by surprise as you went through and did it?
It was 4 years because I found the first prototype on my laptop from 2017.
Wow.
And what surprised me, honestly, it was years and years of it worked, but it wasn't fun. It's easy to make a game. This is all just probabilities, and it's basic.
Math, yeah.
It's just math, and it's not even that complicated. The hardest part about it is when you have compounding probabilities, that can make your head spin a little bit. But again, anybody can grasp it. But what the aha for me was, I didn't have anything to make it fun for the first few years. It worked, but it wasn't fun. So again, when I have to keep going back to play, when I made it fit in the history maker paradigm of basically I condensed 6 different charts into 2 instead of rolling, because the concept of field position was always there, poor, average, and great. But I had separate charts for each one, like big charts for each field position, and it would take a while to resolve a drive, which was almost like, the antithesis of what I was trying to do, which was a quick play game. So the aha moment is when I made it work on those charts. And I will admit when I finally figured out the timing system, that also that surprised me that it worked. It's literally, I wonder if this will work. And when I tried it and I played, I ran it 50 times, and the average number of drives for team was still 11. And I basically couldn't believe it. So that was probably it. And then third, and probably the biggest surprise, was how the game was received. I'll swear on anything you want me to swear on. I did not expect the reaction to be this positive. I thought it would be maybe, a muted excitement at best. So the way the game's been received has been a complete surprise to me. Great. I had no idea that it would resonate this much.
And now, where can we find that game?
www.fastdrivefootball.com. And when you go to the website, you will see that everything is free to download, including some cool add-ons that Mark Miller has created. If you're interested in getting details about, who scored touchdowns and et cetera. But more importantly, the game is free, and I am requesting that if you enjoy the game, that just send in a donation of however much you can afford to your favorite charity. And if you don't have a favorite charity, take a look on the page. I've got a few listed down there that are important to me. And you don't need to send me the receipt or anything, even though I appreciate those of you that have. It means a lot. But just knowing that a lot of you have already donated means a heck of a lot to me, and I really appreciate it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, hey, Al Wilson, thank you for joining us on episode 101 of Digital to Dice.
Very cool.
And, congratulations on Fast Drive Football. FastDriveFootball.com is the new game you put out that everybody is really enjoying. And we look forward to any additional seasons or add-ons to this game here and anything else you do in the future, because you do great work. I mean, just big round of applause.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for everything. Because and I wasn't even aware that you had done some of the mods for 2nd and 10 until Ron actually told me, because I'm like, are you kidding me? These are awesome, So
it's a common name, but it's not that common a name,
Yeah.
Right.
But it is. So thanks for all that. And again, thank you for joining us here on the show.
Dave and Ron, thank you very much. It was fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, by the numbers, this was episode 101 of D2D, and we want to thank Al Wilson for coming on and talking about his new game, as well as all kinds of other things, Ron.
Yeah, he's just been a major part of the community for a long, long time.
Yeah, he's behind the scenes in a lot of different things that I wasn't even aware of. So I learned a lot today myself by talking with Al there. Hey, ways to get a hold of us. Digital2dice.com is our website. 978-751-DICE is the dice line. Digital2dice at yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/group/digital2dice is our group. And I don't want to bring it down on a sad note, Ron, but I do have to say that one of my favorite goaltenders of all time passed away.
He was really sick.
Yeah, I didn't know either. In fact, you texted me last night. I was at work. I was in between refereeing hockey games, and I pulled out my phone to check to see if make sure that I wasn't missing anybody at the rink. And you sent me the message that Tony Esposito had passed away. I didn't know he was sick either. I don't have many hockey shirts with player names on the back. Mostly they're just numbers, or sometimes I put my name on the back. But I don't have too many player name jerseys. Tony Esposito, 35, Red Blackhawks jersey, I do have. That's one that I do have. So it was sad to learn that.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that in 1971, he was 27. And he went on to play into almost the mid-'80s. He played a long time.
I remember at the end of his career when we finally got USA on cable. So he had the Blackhawks into the playoffs and watching him there. It was a name I knew, and I knew about his brother too. But, so yes, even for a casual American sports fan, you knew the name Tony Esposito.
I'm not sure when Phil retired. Phil retired, is it 79, 80 or 80, 81? He didn't. Tony Esposito played the 83, 84, I think.
83, 84. And there was one year in save percentage of .934.
Wow. Yeah, he was fantastic. The whole 72 Summit Series and the whole bit. So I'll be having a tribute game for Tony O up on my channel probably in the next few days of some sort there. So, but yeah, so I just wanted to pass that along that he was one of my favorite goaltenders. But anyway, so sad news there. But anyway, again, thanks to Al Wilson for joining us today on 101, and we'll talk to everybody later.
Bye-bye.